Memories, ladies and gentlemen, they play a very important role in our lives. Our memories, whether recent or distant, are a record of our lives. They make us who we are, but not all memories are happy ones, and some can even haunt us for years, sometimes the rest of our lives, and they can feel as vivid as the day the events happened. And though time can heal some wounds, the memories usually remain fresh. But what if you could one day wake up and those offending memories were gone, or perhaps changed? Would it truly be as good as it sounds? The idea of erasing memories perhaps has never been depicted in any movie as well as it was in the 2004 film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, where Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet play Joel and Clementine, two unlikely lovers who enter into a relationship only to attempt to erase each other from their memories after a bad separation. This film put a controversial idea in motion. Can emotional torment be avoided by erasing memories? And is erasing memories only a poor attempt to alter what will inevitably remain unchangeable? The idea of erasing memories seems pretty far-fetched, but is it really? Perhaps the reason the idea seems so novel to us is because the brain, where our memories are stored, is still a relative mystery in many ways, including how our conscious works. While science is continuing to learn more and more about how memories are stored and retrieved, the general public knows very little about what memories really are, as well as how fragile they are. In a recent study, most Americans seem to believe that our memories work like a video camera, actively and accurately recording what we see and hear for us to inspect later. The only way that this video footage is distorted is through disease, trauma, or old age. Memories play a large part in who we are, as well as how we act as a society. For example, our criminal justice system depends largely upon memories, using factors like confessions and witness testimonies in deciding cases. But our minds are far more complex than a simple video recorder, and they are subject to unwilling change. Like video footage, our memories can be manipulated and altered much of the time without our wanting it, making what we remember yesterday, 1 year ago, or 10 years ago hard to really trust. In fact, this malleability of our memories has been the center of many discussions in our judicial system on how effective one's recollection of events really is. In a recent study, psychology professor Julia Shaw tested 60 undergraduate students, none of whom had ever committed any form of crime as a juvenile, and recorded their perception of their memories after being fed false memories, claiming that they had committed crimes as children. During 3 different interviews, subjects were presented with a real memory that they had disclosed along with one false memory. 1/3 of the students were told they had committed assault, another third was told that they had committed assault with a weapon, and the rest had been told that they had committed theft, all between the ages of 11 and 14. After the test had concluded, 50 of the 60 students believed and confessed to committing these crimes that never actually occurred, with 44 of them giving exact detail as to how the false events played out, believing them to be real. This happened as well in a real-life case in which Eileen Franklin accused her father, George Franklin Sr., of killing her friend Susan K. Nelson over 20 years ago. Believing to have repressed memories, Eileen believed her father had murdered her childhood friend, raped her, and bashed in the 8-year-old's skull with a rock. George was sentenced in 1990 and was not released from prison until 1996, when the defense brought forth the testimony of George's sister, who claimed to have hypnotized Eileen and implanted false memories. Although psychologists still heavily debate the validity of repressed memories, being that the mind will store away traumatic events from a person's consciousness, cases such as this further prove that our memories are hard to pinpoint, as well as hard to understand the truth from what we perceive to be the truth. So what do we know about memories? Could they ever be fully erased or only altered? The reason we have memories is because memories are our brain's way of filtering the mass amounts of information we're flooded with daily, from sensory memories to short-term memories. When certain information is repeated, our brain considers specific information to have a meaningful association. Our brain takes those short-term memories and consolidates them into long-term memories. Our long-term memories are the reason you may remember a song you heard frequently as a child and can still sing along with it after hearing it for the first time in many years, or the reason we remember remember big events in our lives, such as graduation or family vacations. Physiologically, the establishment of long-term memory involves a process of physical changes in the neurons of the brain, in a process called long-term potentiation. Although we can't answer all of our questions about how this process works, we can say at its simplest that when our brain receives information, circuits of neurons in the brain are formed. As these neurons are created, altered, and strengthened, these circuits communicate with one another through synapses or junctions in the brain. But what if these synapses were altered? What would that do to our memories? In 2007, Professor Yatin Dudai of the State University of New York conducted an experiment on trained rats that were previously taught to avoid certain tastes. They hypothesized that if the rat's taste cortex was altered, the rats would resume their original behavior, abandoning what they had learned throughout their time in the original study. By injecting the animals with a drug that would block a protein, they were able to reverse these synapses in the rat's brain, causing them to reject their long-term memory of avoidance and effectively undo the original changes. Unlike our everyday impressions that we can easily forget, long-term memory decays very little over time and can seemingly be stored in unlimited amounts in the brain. What Dudai and his team learned during their experiment is that although these well-ingrained long-term memories can be stored in abundance, they have to be maintained. Our brain is, in essence, a miniature machine that has to continue the ongoing process of maintaining those inscriptions in our nerve network in order to maintain the memory. As soon as something can jam the machine, the memory ceases. Some scientists believe that we're on the verge of not only being able to alter memories, but erase them entirely. And while this may seem like a major breakthrough in psychological therapy, some question the costs of such a procedure. Dr. Hank Greenlee from the Stanford University of Medicine predicts that within 10 to 20 years, we will be able to pinpoint and delete specific memories entirely. However, Greenlee does not consider this to be an entirely good thing, despite what methods like this could do for people who have experienced major amounts of trauma in their lifetime. Our memories make up who we are, Greenlee said. If they are truly lost or changed, we may become different people. So what happens if we're allowed to pick our scary or sad memories and erase them? Is there a downside to this at all? It all goes back to how our brains process information. When we encounter something that causes us to feel afraid or sad, our brain takes these memories and stamps them as significant, storing them away for the future. For example, if a situation or thing causes you to feel fear, your brain can process how to react to that thing in the future, possibly for your safety. In short, your brain takes your experiences and catalogs them so you'll have a reference on how you're supposed to deal with an encounter of a similar situation in the future. Without these experiences, we can potentially lose our understanding of how to cope with certain things we may come in contact with, and therefore only increase the chances of us making the same mistake twice. But what if the experience was so devastating, so traumatic that it inhibits activities of daily living? For sufferers of post-traumatic stress disorder, the idea of simply living with their trauma is a nightmare, causing many to feel trapped within their own memories, unable to feel normal again. Although we aren't quite to the point where we can erase these memories, science has found a way to erase the feelings that are associated with them. For a woman named Brenda, the idea of living with her PTSD had become unbearable. Having been sexually abused from the ages of 3 to 12, Brenda, who in her interview with NPR was only referred to by her first name for privacy reasons, had undergone weekly therapy sessions for over 35 years and had never been able to shake her suicidal thoughts. After a friend referred her to an experimental therapist, Brenda began to finally overcome the long-held feelings of shame and responsibility she had carried from her experiences. After 6 months of seeing a new physician, Brenda was given a drug that would help her relax and discuss the events to help her move past them. The drug was MDMA, or as it is more commonly known sometimes, ecstasy. In recent studies, it was shown that 83% of PTSD sufferers who had taken the drug during their therapy sessions experienced more genuine recovery from their PTSD as opposed to those who had gone through the therapy without it. This is because MDMA releases serotonin, dopamine, and oxytocin into the brain, allowing the patient to relax and trust their therapist with their stories. So after these 6 months, Brenda's suicidal thoughts had gone away, and she began to separate the traumatic feelings she had felt from the experiences she had gone through. She also found that with these feelings now gone, she was able to have a firmer grasp on reality and the present. My dad died in 1995, she said, and it wasn't until session 3 of the MDMA trial where I really believed he had died. And perhaps therapy, a treatment within our reach right now and has been for quite some time, will remain the best option. Erasing memories outright brings many more concerns into play. If a person is raped by a stranger and they have that memory erased, they would be unable to identify or testify against their rapist. And if that rapist went uncaptured, how would the person who was raped know to avoid that person if they encountered them in the future? Or what if a person who unintentionally killed someone was able to have those memories erased? Would it be as ethical to sentence them to prison if they had positively no memory of ever committing the crime, or could that be considered cruel and unusual punishment? Can you still as effectively punish a person who has no idea of what they've done? If victims of crimes can erase memories, would that prevent more criminals from being caught, and in turn, would that create more victims? Now is the time where I questioned you on my Twitter. I asked if you could erase certain memories, would you? Here is what you said. 28% of you said that you would erase certain memories due to the pain they cause. 46% of you said absolutely not, and that memories, good or bad, make you who you are. 19% of you said you weren't sure, and the remaining 7% said you would like to erase all memories and start over entirely. Be sure to follow me on my Twitter at TheRobDyke to cast your vote in my weekly Question Everything poll. So what do you think? Is erasing or changing memories a positive step towards recovery, or is it a double-edged sword that will prove to be more negative than anything else? Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always, if you want to learn anything, you have to question everything, and I will see you next Friday with another question. Before you go, there's one thing I could never forget, and that's to thank Loot Crate for sponsoring this episode and offering my audience some incredible stuff. Do you love gamer, geek, and pop culture gear like I do? Well, Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service where they send people this awesome gear for less than $20 a month. Each crate is a different theme every month, containing anything from clothing to collectibles. I've used them for years, and this month they sent out their Dead theme, which was loaded with Deadpool and The Walking Dead gear. Every crate contains $40 or more worth of gear, and they even ship outside of the US. You have until the 19th of each month to receive that month's crate, but after that, it's gone forever. Loot Crate has been supporting YouTubers since they started, so when you support Loot Crate, you support creators like me. So head over to lootcrate.com/Rob and use code ROB to receive 10% off your first Loot Crate and join the community. Next month's theme is Versus, with gear featuring the Dark Knight versus the Man of Steel, Alien versus Predator, and more. So don't miss out. Before you forget, head to lootcrate.com/Rob, punch in the code ROB, and get 10% off your first crate. Simple as that. Thank you for your time. If you learned something new, please be sure to click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss an episode. You can click on screen now or below this video, and I'll see you next time.